We used to be forced to suffer through lackluster game endings that ended with a text message screen congratulating us on a job well done. But the endings soon became as good as the updated graphics to our favorite games. It's not like we ever complained about all the terrible endings we suffered through, but it was nice to finally play a game in its entirety and get something that felt like an actual conclusion to a job well done. Also, you have been warned, there's gonna be a lot of spoilers in this one. Why not subscribe to our channel? We'll make sure you never have to play a game with a bad ending again. Okay, so that's not part of our job description, but if you sign up for our notification squad, you won't have to be disappointed about missing updates for our channel. Ghosts and Goblins. Ghosts and Goblins was originally an arcade game released in 1985 and developed by Capcom, but it eventually became released on a multitude of other consoles and mobile platforms because it became one of the hardest games to beat. The latest version of the game, Ghosts and Goblins: Gold Knights 2, can be played on the Apple iOS and was released in 2011. In the game, you play as a knight called Arthur, set on rescuing the princess, Prin, from the Demon King, Astaroth. The knight's health and magic is represented by the armor that he wears. Not only will he lose his health and magic levels if he loses his armor, but he'll also be stripped down to nothing but his boxers. This run and gun platformer is insanely challenging and addictingly fun until you reach the end. The end came as quite a surprise to most players, as you end up being completely trolled by Capcom, and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. The player will be informed that this room is an illusion and is a trap devised by Satan. You'll be forced to replay the entire game from beginning to end, and all your effort will be answered with a congratulatory text screen, not even spelled correctly. Oh, the humanity. Bayonetta. I think Bayonetta never really gets the credit she deserves as being an amazing game. The storytelling and gameplay is truly captivating. Bayonetta was originally released for the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3, and then later released alongside the sequel, Bayonetta 2, for the Wii U. The game features a shape-shifting witch that has an arsenal of weapons. Also, her hair can summon demons that you can actually control during battle. You'll be using a rating system that grades based on your performance using a combat system much like the Devil May Cry series. When I say the combat system works pretty similar to DMC, I mean that Bayonetta uses both melee and long-range attacks, and special commands or actions can be woven in to deal devastating, sometimes final, blows to her enemies. The devices and weapons have a pretty wide range of damage, varying from chainsaws to Iron Maidens. The end of the game finally identifies the mysterious voice that's been speaking to you throughout the game as Father Baldur, the last of the Lumen Sages. Also, it turns out to be Bayonetta's father. Sounds a bit familiar. I wonder if any fans of Star Wars created the Bayonetta ending. But you know, Luke wasn't forced to fight Darth Vader 3 times to end it all, unlike Bayonetta. The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. I wouldn't dare talk about endings without mentioning this Zelda classic, one of the first games to correctly pull off multiple endings based on the player's choices throughout the game. I know there have been way too many games that have attempted a multiple ending scenario, but there's always the issue of replayability in an RPG game. Let's face it, sometimes we just don't want to go back through the whole game again to see the end result. I don't feel like that's the case with Ocarina of Time. The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time was the 5th game of the iconic series, and the very first to be released in glorious 3D. It was released in 1998, followed up by the quickest update to the series at the time, Majora's Mask, a mere 2 years later. In Ocarina of Time, players were introduced to target lock systems, and Link sets up to go on a quest to stop Ganondorf as he obtains the Triforce. There were 3 parallel timelines to the game: the Downfall timeline, the Child timeline, and the Adult timeline. In Downfall, Link is defeated by Ganondorf in the final battle. Child ending has Link being sent back to his original time to warn Zelda, but he still gets defeated by Ganondorf, and the Adult timeline has the same results as Child, with the addition that Ganondorf is sealed within the Sacred Realm. But as Link is sent back in time, the world is left without a hero. Now, maybe it's just me, but none of these endings were exceptionally happy, but what they did turn out to be was a nice setup for the games that would follow. Portal 2. The original Portal was one of the best games that I have ever played. It was challenging, addicting, and the dialogue was really witty. I loved Portal, that is, until they released Portal 2, and then I was blown away. Rarely does the second game of a series ever come close to what the first game was, but thankfully, that was not the case with Portal 2. Portal 2 is jam-packed with amazing puzzles to wrap your mind around, and the character storylines seem to go even deeper than the original. We'll be playing alongside GLaDOS as she now become our sidekick after Wheatley takes over the enrichment center. Wheatley being in charge of the facility is a very bad mistake. The ending leads to Wheatley trying to kill you, although failing miserably through some very badly set traps that aren't too difficult to get by. You'll find that GLaDOS and Chell are a lot of help in these parts. GLaDOS and Chell come across some unincinerated corrupt personality cores, which will get the wheels turning for GLaDOS. She decides that by forcing a core transfer to return back to her original body, they will be able to set everything back to normal. She's right in her plan, and with Chell's help, Chell is given the freedom she so desires. As for Wheatley, well, his epic monologue that's interrupted several times, along with him floating around with the space core, isn't exactly a promising ending for his storyline. What Portal 2 does deliver is an amazing conclusion that's well worth the wait. Red Dead Redemption. I rarely take to a storyline in a game the way I did with Red Dead Redemption. You're basically thrown into chaos right from the get-go. It gives you a sort of attachment to the main character that you may not have gotten had there been a lot of build-up beforehand. Red Dead Redemption played through third-person perspective is a great game with an amazing open-world environment that takes the player back to a fictionalized Old West. You can travel the world by horseback or on foot. Players can mark multiple shooting targets with slow-motion effects by using Deadeye during gunfights. Now the player starts off as an outlaw, but there is a sort of system in the game that can make the player's actions affect how other NPCs interact with him. It will also affect the character's level of honor and fame within the game. You'll find that the ending strays from the normal video game conclusions, as you'll be forced to kill off the protagonist. All the time you've spent building up this character is want for naught, as he'll have to pay for his crimes in the end. You can either go out in style or just give up without a fight, but the ending will be the same no matter what, with John being killed off and the player taking the reins for Jack, John's now grown-up son. Call the ending what you want, but I just hope that the sequel doesn't leave me feeling the same way as this game did. Silent Hill 2. Quite easily one of the best of the horror survival genre games. If you have your doubts, we can take this conversation outside. I'm only joking, because I do think it was a great game, but the multiple endings are almost as good as the game itself. You'll find that James is pulled to Silent Hill based on a letter from his dead wife, Mary. She had died 3 years previous, but she writes in the letter that she's waiting for him in their special place. You'll explore the suspected special places where Mary might just be waiting for you. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, well, that's for you to decide. Some of the endings of Silent Hill 2 are just downright crazy and bizarre. You'll also be able to get a serious ending and a weird one, but we'll just talk about the most common ending first, called In Water. This one is pretty dramatic and dark. In Leave, James gets one last moment with his wife, and in Rebirth, we'll see James attempt to resurrect Mary, but Maria, the doppelganger of Mary in the game, will show that Mary hasn't forgiven James for her death. Then there's the UFO ending. James gets abducted by aliens. Then there's the ending called Dog. Be prepared for the game to break the fourth wall, as James discovers that a dog was behind the game and directing everything from a control room. It's beyond weird, but I'd expect nothing less from the bizarre minds that came up with this game in the first place. Heavy Rain. Heavy Rain only made this list because of its film noir gameplay, and I guess that the protagonists also played a big part in it being here. The 4 protagonists become involved in a mystery to discover the Origami Killer, a serial killer capable of using extended periods of rainfall to drown his victims. Each choice by the player will affect the narrative and the ending. The endings are as varied as the game choices, and it could be likely that the decisions you made in the game caused all of the characters to die, and you won't discover who the Origami Killer is. Another happier ending allows all the characters to survive, and you'll get to find the killer. The points at the end decide who lives, dies, and if Sean Mars will be saved. This game is definitely a great one to try, especially for fans of film noir thrillers that like to be kept on the edge of their seat. Call of Duty Black Ops. It would be hard to talk about endings and not even mention Black Ops. Black Ops was the 7th game of the COD series and the sequel to Call of Duty World at War. Black Ops campaign mode follows CIA operative Alex Mason as he tries to recall certain combat memories throughout the game. You'll be familiar with the gameplay, as it hasn't changed much from previous COD titles. Now, quite a few people were a bit confused by the Black Ops ending, and here's what I got from it. Mason has been obsessed with the numbers station since the beginning of the game, and you'll find that as Mason accessed the control console and shuts down the broadcast, Dragovich appears about to shoot Mason until Hudson distracts him. This allows Mason to drown Dragovich underwater. Mason and Hudson Hudson escape to find a large US Navy battleship and reinforcements as he hears Reznov congratulate him. You also discover this is the day JFK is assassinated, as the player has saved major US cities from the Nova 6 gases that were about to be unleashed. They now become the peacekeepers of the world in this ending, which is why I find it to be such an important thing to consider, as no other COD has touched on the subject of the military's role in the world the way this game has. Kingdom Hearts. Kingdom Hearts was the game that almost broke my heart. I thought for sure that Sora was a goner, as he was whisked away into the world that never was instead of the realm of light. It made this list because it shocked players to discover that Riku was a much bigger part of the game than previously imagined. Throughout the game, the unlikely heroes of the world, Sora, Goofy, and Donald, battle and work together to defeat hordes of enemies. But you'll discover the master behind it all. Master Xehanort has plans for the friendly duo you meet in the beginning of the game. We discover that Master Xehanort has hoped to use the X-Blade to summon Kingdom Hearts, pitting a heart of pure light against a heart of pure darkness. He had hoped for a Keyblade war. The X-Blade shattered into 13 darknesses and 7 lights. Master Xehanort creates an organization of 13 incarnations of himself, hoping to turn Sora into the final vessel for the organization. Sora's friends arrive just in time to save him, and since Riku succeeds in waking Sora up, he is named a Keyblade Master. Sora congratulates Riku and departs to continue with his own training. I've never heard anyone complain about the ending of the game, and without an ambiguous ending like this, we wouldn't have been able to enjoy 7 other games, and we'll eventually get to bask in all the glory that will be Kingdom Hearts 3. Super Metroid. This one might be a weird game to put on this list, but I just think Super Metroid deserves the credit that it never really got. It was amazing for a game from this era to have an ending that wasn't simplified, and not only was it not simplified, but it was like the developers actually attempted to make it good. The main gameplay focuses on environmental exploration and power-ups that make Samus's suit even more powerful. Now to get to the strange end, Samus has to defeat 4 space pirate bosses, where she'll arrive at the heart of the space pirate base and encounter the Metroid larva. The larva has now grown exponentially, but before you get to it, you're greeted by the giant spider called Mother Brain, a biomechanical creature that controls the base's systems. Mother Brain almost kills Samus, but the Metroid larva saves her. Mother Brain destroys Metroid, allowing Samus to eventually kill Mother Brain with the Hyper Beam. This is probably the most beautiful and vivid animation for an ending created up until that point in video games. Each alternative ending is dependent on how much time it takes for you to complete it. If you finish the game in 10 or more hours, Samus will give you a thumbs up and jump back, firing her weapon at the screen. Finish the game in under 10 hours and you'll see that Samus is actually a female character as she removes her helmet. And if you finish the game in 3 hours or less, then you'll get a real eyeful. Samus will be left in nothing but a black bikini. She'll untie her hair as she jumps back into the background. These endings are what makes the Metroid series so exceptionally done. That, and it's the first great game series with a female as the lead protagonist. What were some game endings that especially resonated with you? Is there a series that tied up nicely with an especially great conclusion that we may have left out? If so, be sure to tell us about it in the comments. You should subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching, and we hope you'll join us next time as we try to delve deep into the secrets of games.